In this lecture, we'll see login functionality. Whatever we have covered in last two lectures, that is API integration or API creation on server side, and the front-end implementation of integration with API using ReactJS. So in this video, we'll see another functionality, that is login. But in this video, we'll see API generation, that is API creation on server side, and the front-end integration of on the client side using React for login functionality. Okay, so in previous example we have seen this. We have used the student route. Now I'll create one more route for say for example login. So I'll just write down login.js. First we'll create the API, and then we'll see the front-end integration of this API. Okay, so here I will write down something like this: const. First we'll include the express, equal to require express. Okay, after that we'll create a route for this. So const route equal to express dot router. Okay. And we need to include our model also. In our model, you must be aware about that thing. We have a username and password for student registration, right? So that only we are going to use for this login. So I'll just write down const login info equal to require dot slash models slash student model. Okay. Now we'll create a route for this. So say for example a router dot, say for example, post into bracket slash login, right? Then here two things you need to pass, that is request and response. It will be a arrow function, so I'll just write down this way. Here I will write down, say for example, if you know that for getting value from server client side, we need to write down request dot body dot say for example our name, that is username in this case, and request dot body dot password in our case, right? So now inside this, for example, let login check equal to login info dot, we'll write down one method that is called find one, right? So it will give us one value, right? So I will just write down request dot body. So it will take all the values if you find out this, and then I will write down something like this. Just try to understand. It will give us output if these values are correct. In that case, say for example, you don't have to include this, but for security reason, mostly we not written password field. Apart from that, everything you can send if you want. In our case, we are not sending password, so I will write down something like this: select into bracket, just try to understand what I am doing, dash field name, whichever field you don't want to send or return rather. So I am writing this password, means what? I will return everything, but I will not return or I will not send password from my collection. Okay, so that is what in a find one means what, it will find out one value. Okay, at all, that value is correct. So I will just write down now. I will check that login chk, say for example, and I will write down something like this. I will respond dot send. It will send my data login chk to my client, right? Else I will write down something like this. Response dot send, into bracket I will pass my JSON value set, that is result colon, say for example invalid login or password, something like this. Okay, so what we are doing here, what find one will do, it will find out the only one value, and you know that username password is mostly, in most of the cases we are checking whether it's unique value or not. If this combination is unique, then it will send one value. If this value is there, then we'll send this value, otherwise we'll send invalid login or password, something like this. So that is what we are checking. So this is for this if condition. Now if the username password is not there, still something is wrong, so I can write down here also if I want something like this. I'll just copy this, say for example something like this. Okay, so this is my this thing, and at the end I need to write down, or I need to export this thing. Okay, let me check if there is something wrong or not. This else condition is here up to this point, and after that we need to export that. So module dot exports equal to what? Router. But at least you should understand now, you should know that okay, whenever we write down this kind of things, then async await is required, then only it will become asynchronous, because this is required, as you know that this is synchronous connection or synchronous way the JavaScript is working. So we don't want that sometimes. So in that case, async await is required. So I'll just write down here await. Sorry. So this way it will be asynchronous. First it will check for this, then only it will go to the next line. This way this should work. So we have written this thing now. We have exported that thing. Here I think discriminate router. Okay, we'll write down route, or we'll write down router, then only this will be correct. Okay, fine. So now it's perfect. Yeah, this is only working. So router. So this way my API is ready for my login check, or login functionality rather. What we did here, it will just find one value, it will send that value, and then it will not send password for this. As you know this, I have written minus password. You can write down any number of fields, but this is just one value. Then that value will come over here, and if everything is fine, we'll send that to the client, otherwise we'll send invalid login or password. Fine. So this is our, you can say, server API for this. Now what we need is, we need to write down, say for example, client side for this. So what we need to do, we'll go to the client and we'll try to write. Okay, before that one thing is left, I think, if I am not wrong. We need to include this route into our server.js file, right? So what I will do, I'll go to the server.js. Here I will write down, say for example, what I need to write down, const. You can give any name over here. We can write down, say for example, route key, route, say for example, or login, say for example, equal to require into bracket dot slash from routes slash login. Okay, so that we have done, and now we have to write down the middleware for this. So I'll go below somewhere, and here I will write down after this app dot use into bracket. I will just write down, say for example, login, and then comma, I need to write down my route login. So now I have included this route. Okay, fine. So now next thing that we need to do is we need to write down this thing in a client side. So we'll open this client side, and here I will write down, say for example, one file in my component, that is, say for example, login.js. Okay, what we'll do in login.js, we'll write down the client side code for this, or my code which is in React. Okay, so first we'll write down React functional component with arrow function. Fine. So I have included my React. Here again we are going to use, just like previous example, we are going to use useState. Okay, another thing that is required is what? Axios. Okay, and okay, fine. Up to this point, this only we are going to use here. Now first we'll create our, say for example, HTML portion of this. So I will write down something like this, div class name equal to app. Okay, inside this, say for example, h3 login page. I'm just creating very basic thing for this, or basic HTML for this. Okay, now here I will write down, say for example, label. Inside this label I will write down, say for example, username, and here it will be a break. And after this we'll put input type equal to, say for example, text. I will write down, say for example, name equal to whatever we have written over there, username in body, request.body, that I'm write down here. Then I'll just write down value also here now. Username, you know this thing now very well, we did in a registration form, so you can write down very easily. So I'll just write down these things, say for example username, and then I will write down, I think we return a required over there. Okay, fine. After required, on change event, and here I will write down e handle user change into bracket e. Okay, and after this I think we have to close this one, and we need to write down vr also. Okay, so this way our one label or one control will be created. Now I'll just copy this and I will put it over here after this, and it will be user, and here I will write down, say for example, pass. I will write down here password. Here also I will write down password. This will also be a password. Fine. Value password. Yeah, this will also a password. Fine. Okay. So after this, again I need to add one more button. So I will write down. We are doing same what we did in our registration. So on click, I will write down, say for example, same name, collect data, so you can easily recollect that thing. Write type equal to, say for example, again here button. Okay, and here also we can give a name, say for example login or submit, whatever you want to write down. Okay. I think that is it. Here, in previous example, I think we have used it. Just a minute. Okay, we'll check that one. CSS we have used over there. Yeah, this one. So I'll copy this from here and I will write down it over here after this. So this header we need to close somewhere. So here I will write down head. I think we did something wrong. We'll check this because it is giving us an error. So just a minute. 2DI. Okay, so this should be here. Okay, now so my HTML portion is ready now. So what I need to do now, I need to use I need to connect with my API now. So for that, what I need to do, I need to write down that code here. Say for example, here I will write down const username. Then here I will write down set username equal to useState, and here it will be a blank value, right? So this way we'll create for user also, for username also, for password also. So I will write down password. Here I will write down password. Okay, and that two things we need to write down, that you handle change events, right? So I will write down const handle user change. Here I will pass, say for example, okay, sorry, this is the event, so I will just write down this way. Then there will be an arrow function, so I will just write down this here. Here I will write down set username equal to e dot target dot value. Okay, and same thing we need to write down for password also. So I'll just copy this and write down here. It was, I think, pass, and here I will write down set password. Okay, so I'll just verify that thing, whatever I have written is correct or not. So for password we have written handle pass change and handle user change. So handle pass user change, handle pass change. Okay, fine, that is correct now. Okay, so next thing that we need to do, what we need to write down that collection data, right? So now here I will write down, say for example, const collect data equal to one arrow function, and here I will write down again try catch. You can write down this way also, say for example try. Here you can see this try catch, just click that, so it will generate this one for you. here I will write down, say for example, let login data equal to Axios dot post. Into bracket I need to write down now my API. So my API will be, we have not checked that API, so this time I'm not checking, I'm just writing localhost colon 5000, and the name that we have given in our server.jsp was, I think, login, right? So I'll just write down that here, login slash login, I think. Okay, so after this I need to pass my values, right? So I'll just write down this way. So this values I need to write down. Which values I need to write down? That is written in our controls. So I will pass, say for example, username, comma, password. Okay. So now fine. So after this, so this that is fine. So my data is with me now. So I can write down, say for example, login data equal to, and I will convert this data, I will collect that data, whatever is coming from API. So it will be something like this, login data dot, there is option called just a minute. Okay, I will write down something like this. I think login data, we are writing the same variable, so I will write down something like this, dot, sorry, data, and I will alert from this now. Say for example, login data dot name, just for checking right now, and then we'll see this. Okay, this is for checking, I'm writing. Still we need to check my data is correct or not, but first we'll check whether data is coming or not, say for example. So here I will check now if the value is coming or not. So I will just write down login data dot name. If this is there, then I will write down, say for example, now we want to store this data into our local storage. Now what is local storage? That if you really want to understand, okay, then please try to understand what is local storage. I'll just make it a little bit bigger so you can easily understand. Local storage is a web storage object to store the data on the user's computer locally, which means the data stored on the data is saved across the browser session, and data stored has no expiration time. It is just like a cookie that you are learning in other languages, but here the thing is you don't have any expiration time. So just try to understand the syntax of that thing. Local storage means it will store in a local site. I'll explain you where it will store. So one is, if you want to put that value into a storage, local storage, then you need to write down local storage dot set item, the name of that item or variable name of that item and value of that item. If you want to retrieve that data, then local storage dot get item, into bracket you need to write down the variable name. Then you want to clear that record, say for example, then you need to write down local storage the remove item, and that item, it will remove specific item from local storage. And if you want to clear your whole local storage, then you need to write down local storage dot clear. So which are the functions that you need to understand? Set item, which will set or put that data into local storage. Get item means you will get or it will retrieve your data from your local storage. Remove item, it will remove specific item from your local storage, and dot clear will remove everything from your local storage, right? see, this is very important that you need to remember. The data stored in the local storage should be in a JavaScript string format. For example, if you want to write and read object to and from the local storage, then you would need to use a JSON API to transform into stringify. Means your JSON data will transform into the string format, and when you want to retrieve it, then you need to use a JSON.parse, which it will back from JavaScript string to JavaScript object. So stringify means it will convert your JSON to string, and parse means string to JSON. These are the two functions that you need to use for this, something like this. So it will stringify, so it will set item this, so it will stringify this whole object. You can write down one variable also, you can write down the object also, the way you want to write down. And get item user, but after getting that, again if you want to use, then you have to parse it and you have to get that value. So this is important. JSON to string, string to JSON, and you can write down one variable also, you can write down the full object also. Whatever way you want to use this local storage, you can use this. Okay, another thing is also there which is not part of this thing right now, but just I'm explaining you. Session storage, where there is something like this: set item, get item, but session storage. What is this? Difference between your local storage and session storage is, your session storage is persists data only in your current browser session only, where in local storage it will remain for all the browser and then no expiration time, right? So this way the thing will work. Okay, fine. Okay, so we are going to use this local storage for this. So what I will do now, say for example, local storage, you don't have to include anything for this. So local storage dot set item, into bracket I will write down, say for example, login, and here as I told you I need to convert into string, so I will need to write down JSON dot stringify, into bracket I will write down something. Now what I want to store here, that is important. I just want to store whole data. So here I will write down, say for example, login data. So I'm storing everything over here in my local storage. We'll see this in a minute. Okay, and else what I want to do, alert login or password is incorrect. Okay, so I've stored if everything is fine, and here in cache I will write down again console.log into bracket error. So this way I have written my page. Okay. Fine. One more thing that I need to do is I need to go to the app.js, because we want to check this login. So what we can do here, here also I will make it something like this. Right now we are not using any navigation. We'll see that navigation portion in the next lecture, where I will integrate all this thing and I'll show you how the navigation will work. But right now we are not using that, so I'll just put this thing, and here simply I will write down login. Just write down npm start over here. We need to check whether it will work or not, or there is some error. It has one error. We'll check that error. The login is not defined. Okay, so what is the issue? See why I am giving you such errors to you. My login is not defined means what? What we did? We have not imported that thing. So first we need to import it. Import login from component slash login. So now I'll save this, and now there is 2 errors. So it is showing us module build failed, this and syntax error, missing semicolon on the line number 14 right here somewhere, right? So I'll just go to the collect data. Okay, number 14 here. Okay, one is your mistake, constant, one thing, and one more thing that we forget to write down over here is async await. So I'll write down that. I just okay, so I will write down, sorry, async, and obviously I need to write down my await somewhere. So I will write down here only await. Remove the data. You can write down here also if you want, but depending on the situation we need to write down this. So there is one warning now. My login page is ready. Okay. So now here I need to write down my server page. This is my server page, I think. Okay, here I will write down node server.js. Okay, now we'll start the server and let's check whether this API is working or not. So I'll just write down node. So now my server is running now. Okay, so now next thing is what? I'll just go to the client and we'll again stop this. I will start another fresh install, fresh running, that is npm start. Let's check whether it's working or not. Okay, I'll stop this, the older one, and here I will inspect and I'll go to the console. Now this is fine. Here I need to check this, which username and password I have to use. So I'll just select it, test and test 1 2 3, say for example. So I'll just write down here test 1 2 3. I log in. So that test is coming here, and then nothing is coming. Now we need to check whether this is correct or not, or what is going on over here. So what we can do here, I'll go to the server, I'll just make it a little smaller. Okay, so here that is fine, whether this data is coming or not. So I can write down here, say for example, if I want just to check whether everything is working or not. So console dot log into bracket request dot query, one thing. So here I will check whether my data is coming or not over here. After that I'll go to the client side. So this data here, login data, and here the alert, this alert is coming, right? So if dot name is there, then it will set item to myself. Okay, fine. So I think everything is working. So I'll just check whether my data is correct or not. So I'll go here, you can see 200. What we need to check, my local storage is there or not. So I'll just click here, application and local storage, and here you can see my data is there in my local storage. So my login is working perfectly. So what I did, again I'll show you. I'll just close this and just refresh this. First we'll write down, say for example, wrong value. So test, and I will write down test 1 2 3 4 5 6. I click on login, undefined, login or password is incorrect, right? Because it is not going over there. Okay, fine. So now here I will write down test, and here I will write down, say for example, test 123, correct one. So it will give you a correct value, username, okay. And then here in our local storage, I'll go here and go to the application, and in application local storage I can get this values. So this is why I'm getting the value. Just try to understand what we did over here. Here first we'll go to the client. So first it will put this values, username and password over here. When I click, it will open this collect data, and whatever is written that will pass to this set username using this, and this value will go over here, username and password, using this methods. So after that it will call the collection data. Collection data here, it will post that value username and password to my this API. Then I am checking my data and I am alerting the name. That's why the name is coming. If I writing wrong, then this name will not come because it is not there. So it is showing us a undefined. Then everything is fine, and it will go inside and it will put that value into the local storage. And if something is wrong, then it will show you local your login or password is wrong. Okay. And what we did in our server side, the console.log, that we will see this output in a minute. Then this way checking with find one whether that value is correct or not. If everything is fine, then we are sending our record to our client side, and if it is not, then it will send a invalid username or password, something like this. Okay, so now we'll take another value, say for example vmol and vmol123, to just check the values. So here I will write down, say for example, now I will write down vmol, and here I will write down vmol123. Say for example, here I will click on login. It will log in. When I click on OK, now you can see in my local storage the new values is there, vmol, and password is not coming. Why? Because we have written tests or less password, so password will not come over here. That way we are sending this data to our local storage. Correct. So this way the whole login process will work. I hope this is clear in your mind, and I have seen one or two errors also in this case. So at least you can understand what kind of error you are getting. You have to just understand few things. That is this client side. You have to create your HTML page where name, value, and on change event you are calling one method, and in that method we are writing target.value, which will give us a value to this variable, set user and set password, and that value we are passing in useState. So you are getting that value into these two variables, and that two variables we are passing over here in our Axios post method. Then we are getting that value from API. We'll put that here, and we are taking the name. If my name is correct, then I'll put everything into my local storage. Why we are writing local storage? What is the use of local storage? Everything we'll see in the next lecture. And that way we are writing this client side. Now regarding server side, again I'll explain you. Come over here, the data will come, and here it will print. It will check my body username and password. If it is correct, if it is there, then it will use this MongoDB find one method, which will take one output. Here I am passing the whole request body, that is username and password. These two things I'll pass over here. If the two things are matched, then only this will give you the final output. So it is checking. It's just like select star from table name where username equal to this and password equal to this. Then only it is sending. But after selecting, we are removing our password from here. So I'm writing just desk password here. So password will not send to my client side. And then if everything is fine, I'm sending everything to the client, and we can put that value into local storage. This is for login. In next lecture, we'll see the navigation, and we'll put everything into one menu, and we'll check after login only you can insert student record. Without login, you cannot insert value into the registration form, user registration form. And another thing, the use of local storage. Okay. Say for example, If I directly open the registration page and I am not logged into the system, then there must be no value in your local storage. So you cannot open the registration page, and we'll see one logout page also, which will clear all the local storage, so you can have a login page fresh. So this is your second lecture. So third lecture, in next lecture we'll see navigation.